The biggest authorized players in the New Age are put out there to be heroes to lead you into massive confusion. And they've been doing that for over 600 years now, that we can actually trace. They give you the heroes to oppose convention, but in reality, it's to sway you into the next phase of conditioning for the next society. Generally bringing in the fantastique with it. I've had so many people phone me up and email me about the reptilian people that they haven't seen. They haven't seen any of them, but because it's been written in a book, and here's the power of the written word. It's like the Bible. It must be true. It's in the book, see? And it's the same with all books. If it's in the book, it must be true. And if half a dozen books come out saying the same nonsense, then it must be truer than true. That's the psychology that people fall for. It doesn't matter if there's a billion books coming out and saying it. It still doesn't make it true. So I'm fighting the bizarre and the Tavistock instituted nonsense put out by the superstars, generally from the UK, who, by the way, one of them phoned different stations and asked them not to have me on after sending me a bunch of nasty emails. So be careful. Be very, very careful. Guard the corridors of your mind carefully. It's your most precious possession. Don't let anyone come in with fantastic stories which entice you into a labyrinth of confusion. And don't let anyone either tell you that it's fate, where it's a church, because it was written in a book long ago, and so see, it has to happen, all this stuff has to happen. I don't say Revelations isn't true, I just say Revelations is a plan. It's not an ordained thing by some mystery deity. It's a plan. It's written in typical mystery religion speak, mystery speak, for the esoteric crew to understand, not for the exoteric profane, as they say. They're following that. It's a business plan. And it's the same with anything else to do with fortune telling. It's a great psychological technique to disarm people, to make them think there's nothing they can do because, see, it's fate. It's the same trick, whether it's card games, horoscopes, or anything else. That's the trick, to make you give up your own reasoning power and your ability to create a future for yourself. You create your fate, your destiny. That's what you're here for. The shysters know how to rob you of that ability. And they always give you the fantastic stuff to swallow, the bait. And because people cannot handle individuality very, very well, with all of its decision-making and uncertainty, they want, especially in a time of more crisis, of major crisis as we're going through now, they want a promise of security. That's why they're taking all your freedoms away, to make you safe. You see, this is the nonsense we're fed. And it's the same thing with the psychological warfare departments, with all the people who talk about fate and destiny, and it's written, yada, yada, yada. That steals the power of creating your own destiny. It also makes you small. Once you swallow that stuff, it makes you feel small and helpless. And you'll feel you're up against forces which are unseen and invisible, and there's nothing you can do. It's the oldest trick in the book. When Germany was going to invade Poland, they had rewritten the prophecies of Nostradamus, and they dropped thousands of leaflets all over the major cities. And in those prophecies, they had it, well, this is going to happen to Poland, you see. And it worked wonders, psychological warfare. You give up before you begin. That's what psychological warfare is all about. Yet here are the gurus of the New Age, and it's all over, and it's amazing how the New Agers gobble. They're the best consumers of religion out there. They're better than any other religion today because it's been made to be so through heavy promotion and financing. And they don't even question how these books all get out there so cheaply and stack the shelves with guru this and guru that, advocating this and that kind of drug. But that's the present craze right now, is drugs for your mystical experience. It never occurs to them, because they're not individuals. It never occurs to them that there could be any other way. Never does. They want the easy, fast way, a chemical way. The chemical way. Eh? Here's the money, give me the experience. They have no knowledge of the topics. They only have an exoteric and very superficial exoteric understanding of that which they think they're involved in or they believe in. And yet they are the modern ones with the drive-through mentality, drive-through coffee, drive-through donuts, drive-through give me the experience. Here's the money, give me the experience. No patience. It's fascinating to see how this has all been created for them and how they have fallen so easily for it with their own vocabulary, which they didn't invent. The big boys that gave them the whole culture invented that for them. It's fascinating to watch it all being played out again and promoted. And because the gurus who lead them are put out there as fronts, and who they themselves are only partly trained in the exoteric, they must lead them in the same path always, because they can't go any further. They don't have the knowledge or the abilities, so they advocate drugs. It's a sad thing to see that when the greatest gift anyone is given is the ability to be completely conscious. And it's understandable with the crisis creation, to create uncertainty, confusion, and fear, that people are unable to handle their conscious mind, so they turn to something to escape. Again, it's all a technique. But when you see such a war being played on your conscious mind, that should be your cue to, rather than throw away your ability to be conscious, fight to keep it, fight to retain your conscious mind, your ability to go further. Don't be afraid of all the hype they throw your way, and impending gloom, doom, and horror and crisis after crisis. That's the technique to wear you down. It's the technique to control you. And another thing I've said over and over is that the big, well-funded people who come out, either pretending to lead you through the New Age, did not get there by chance. And the other ones who go into the political side of things, and that's their chant, is to wrap you back into politics again and terrify you with all impending things that are going to happen to you. Well, see, psychological warfare doesn't care who gives that to you, that information, whether it's a guy in government or a person who pretends to speak for you. The whole idea is to paralyze you with fear so that you're not thinking critically and rationally. So be careful. You are the guardian of your own mind. No one else is. And within those walls that protect your mind, you have sacred ground. Sacred ground. Be careful who you allow to walk upon it. Now, I'm not saying that this is all there is. This place here, the place that the northern peoples called Hela, which is where we get the word hell from. There's more to it, of course, than just this, the mundane. But you certainly won't get a truth which you can confirm. And you certainly won't get ultimate truths by taking drugs to do it. Chemicals. This world truly is only one part of something. And just getting through the mundane stuff, the mind control, which is everywhere, is bad enough and almost impossible for most people. And to learn truth, you must be prepared to jump out of an airplane without a parachute. You can't take anything with you that's familiar. That's not searching for truth. That's an insurance policy you're after. An insurance policy that connects you with the familiar. Truth doesn't work that way. It doesn't come with guarantees that you'll have happy endings in the way that you presume. Most people cannot even look at themselves honestly. Part of the reason is they're a composite of what society has conditioned them to be, and the culture that they were born into has conditioned them to be. And the other part is ego in this system is promoted. You can't obtain honesty unless you overcome ego. The whole New Age concept is to please your ego, to tell you you're special and wonderful and that nasty things could happen, but here's how to avoid them. Just follow these rules and come back for the next course and pay your bucks. But it's meant to be flattering. The New Age is flattering to the individual. It's part of the spider's web to entice you in. And counterintelligence listens to all avenues of information and emulates it and gives you superstars who will say the same stuff and then spin it off. And you'll follow them because you're trained to follow what you perceive to be the superstar, the successful one, the one who's making the big bucks. He must be good if he's making the big bucks. That's how you're trained to see it. And therefore, if a vagabond tells you ultimate truths, you would ignore them. In fact, you wouldn't even hear what was being said. Your ears would be closed. Yet if the big boys put out some charlatan, you'll listen to every syllable they utter and swallow it all without question. I've been at this for years, and I've watched the big boys say exactly what I've said on a previous night's show the following day. Now, obviously, the big boys aren't scouring all the airwaves. They don't. There are agencies within every country which record all radio shows and television shows. And then to keep their boys on top, they must appear to say something first. That's the game they play. So and I've had this before, people have written in and said, you know, so-and-so is saying exactly what you said. Well, I do know these things because it's been happening for years. And some people have made books, really, on information I've given out for free. And then spun the truth, of course, always spinning it. And that's counterintelligence. That's how it works. You can't allow truth to be told and the bubble to be burst and maintain control at the same time. You must present to the public superstars. The ancient Egyptians knew this technique, this science very well, and they called them the wandering stars. They give you the wandering stars, and the people follow them. That's why Hollywood has stars. You follow the stars. You're more interested in the gossip about the stars, even though it's all bogus and fake, than you are about what's happening within your own family or to those around you. You get caught up in it because you worship the material success. And those who seem to be up there with the material success in these professions are placed there. Whether they are producers, writers, whatever, they're specially selected, specially groomed, and the careers are made for them because there's no chance allowed in culture, creation, and control. Everything must be managed. Anything from the grassroots could upset the whole balance of things. It wouldn't be under the control of the elite. And this technique and this science was laid out by many of the ancients, including Plato and other contemporaries of the same period, of how creation, of culture creation, how it worked, who was in charge of it, how they always kept in charge of it, and all of the components that go into creating it. When you see that for thousands of years Christianity alone ruled a good part of the world, and people didn't question it, that's all they were told was what was in that book. And even then, for hundreds of years, they weren't even told what was in the book. It was forbidden to read it. Only the priests could read it. And even then, they'd only read it occasionally. The Bible used to be chained to the altar up until the Middle Ages. Most of what was being taught was dogma. It was the church dogma. That's why the Protestants put out the Geneva Bible. They weren't Protestants really, they were Rosicrucians and Masons. This transformed into the term Masonry. It was the same movement behind it. And for the first time, people could read things for themselves and say, my goodness, what's all this dogma got to do with what's in this book? And really it was nothing. The dogma was there for controlling the people. Well, if that was controlling the people for 1,500 years at that time, do you really think with all the sophistication of today's media, where you have instant access to data right to your home 24 hours a day, do you really think it's not being used now, including with the New Age movement? Of course it is. Blavatsky herself said, and Pike said, that the spearhead of bringing in the New Age would be the universities, because they place the professors there to teach slants on things. And the students would follow and rebel to demand certain things. They would demand exactly what the big boys wanted. And the other part would be led and spearheaded through the churches. And the churches were infiltrated long ago to bring in the New Age. It's interesting that Adam Weishaupt, who was one member of one group of the same groups worldwide, said the greatest way to bring in members, including the low members who knew nothing of the real motives and agenda behind the movement, he said the greatest way to bring them in is to give them mystery. Mystery. It fascinates them. It fascinates them. And they come in droves. They pay their money, they go on their knees, they do all these rituals, and they think they're going to be told the truth. we're living in a totally controlled system. And I've had overtures from some of the big ones with basically the offer of a very sweet and golden age for myself if I go along and go easy on certain people. And I know the reasons why. It's important that these certain people seem to be up there in front. They've been well groomed and well financed, and the groundwork was laid a long time ago for them coming. And I'm upsetting some apple carts. But I must be true to myself first. And I can't go along with that. And I found in past experience that those who offer you the big payoffs, if you go along, are stunned when you refuse them. And I mean stunned, and I've seen this face to face at times. They can't figure you out because they have no integrity themselves. They might be in the most supposedly prestigious positions, but they have no integrity. That's why they're in those prestigious positions. But they truly, truly are dumbfounded that you can't just play the game and go along and take the payoffs. They're confused. And I've had quite a few offers over the last year or so, longer in fact. This is the real world we live in. Most people will give in and play the game and become Pied Pipers and promote each other, you see. People who've been trained by the big boys, MI5, MI6, who put Aleister Crowley out there to create another part of the New Age movement, did a very good job of it. Created the OTO, a Freemasonic branch, a speciality, you might say. Not for the lower members, but for the higher members. And just like all the monasteries in past times, they spawn off other sects, other specialized sects to do specialized jobs. This is how it works. It's always worked this way. But first and foremost, you have to be true to yourself. You can't be true to others unless you are. And your prime purpose is to be true to yourself. I have lost count of the number of people who have called me over the years, who followed and been involved in what we now loosely term the New Age. The ones who are the emotional and psychic wrecks. They become imprisoned in a world they're terrified of. A world akin to Haiti, where spells are cast by people on people, and you visit the witch doctor to have the spells removed. Probably the same guy that put the spell on you for someone else. And this is the ridiculousness it comes down to, where all these energies and forces are acting on people until they're breaking, that the people are breaking down. They're mentally breaking down with all of this. They can't make a move without a card reading or a pendulum swinging over yes or no. Should I go out today? Or someone with a horoscope. The traditional methods of what we now call the New Age, which is ancient. But they're imprisoned in their lives. They have no happiness, no peace. Everything is a sign or an evil entity. And this was all created for them by something which was intended initially to fascinate them. And they took the bait and went into it. And now they're terrified of living and dying. They're not living at all. That's where all of this leads. To be controlled by other people. People who claim they have the power to keep you safe So here we have the warlords on the one hand in the physical world taking every right away that you thought you had to keep you safe, mind you, and using all the front groups to do it. The NGOs that are financed and sponsored by the big boys, the big foundations. And on the other hand, they're robbing you of your psychic life, your spiritual life, by the fakes that they put out there to confuse and astound you. And you give every right away up to them. You give them over. You're looking for gurus to take away to wash away all the bad karma you've accumulated. Just to wash it away. And of course, there's plenty who will promise to do so, as long as you can pay them. It's an awful roundabout that they go on to. Their minds are imprisoned. They went in willingly, now they're imprisoned. They can't get out. Tremendous mind control. Carefully laid out, slowly, incrementally, over many, many, many years to get the effect that we're now at today. And they're creating the world religion where they've all been prepared to go into it willingly again, for Mother Earth and nature. Sounds so wonderful and fuzzy. And yet there'll be a priesthood over that as well, of course. There's always a priesthood over it who will tell you the rules. And now you've got to stop breeding, and maybe you should be sterilized as well for Mother Earth. And this will come. It's all in the books. And they want your cooperation. They're very legalistic that way. They want your cooperation. We always do it willingly. We go off and fight their wars for them willingly. We've been trained to follow the good shepherds. Shepherds own sheep. That's why every religion had a good shepherd. And all the sheep go into their specially made buildings and bleat on special days. Domesticated animals. That's what a sheep is. A sheep is a domesticated animal. It doesn't have the natural instincts of a wild animal. It's been bred out of it. Its instincts for survival have been bred out of it. It actually trusts the shepherd. The shepherd keeps it to make a living off it. And he'll eat it and sell its wool. They get fleeced. Sound familiar? We live. It's only bleak for those who are afraid to look at the truth. And once you have looked at the truth, you can get past it all and above it and beyond it and move on. And you will have power by understanding. There are those in the New Age who want everyone to be saved. Like we're a mass man, we're all connected and glued together. It's never been that way in history. And if you wanted to bring everyone through this, then you would become the control freak. People are making their choices every day. Every day. And you must allow them to do so. It doesn't mean you don't have to tell them. You tell them, at least warn them where they're going. Give them as much information as possible or they can handle. But ultimately they will make their decisions. And most people will take what appears to be the easiest path. They always have. And generally they always will. This is your journey. The individual's journey. And the more you truly search and are honest with yourself, as you say, know thyself is important, you will find that there's far more to all of this than just the mundane. And it's beyond and greater than the New Age, with their hocus pocus and their mind imprisoning techniques. There is far more to this, of course, than just facts and figures and who did what, when, where, and why. But not everyone can go on that journey. It's up to those who can handle the bad news in all of its levels, because the bottom level is bad enough. Few can go beyond that, but there are some. And you have to go through hell before you can see heaven. The New Age movement has trained them, their followers, to avoid the unpleasant. Oh, don't look at the negative. Look at the happy things. And as you look at the happy things, people are being slaughtered across the planet by the power mongers as they grab territory, oil, resources, and destroy cultures because they're in the way, they're inconvenient for the world that's coming up to be. And those who will not look at the truth are putting themselves in the path of destruction. And they won't see that coming either because they won't want to look at it. That's the ostrich syndrome. They're neutralized. Again, psychological warfare works wonders, works very well with most people. And some people have said, well, you've got to give the people hope. I wouldn't give them false hope. To give them hope, they have to look at the truth. There's no other way to do it. You must look at things honestly, including yourself. That's where the hope comes in once you've done that. Until you do, for you, there is no hope. You'll be at you'll bend to every wind that blows from the top. And I don't say there'll be hope for everyone. As I say, most people will and always have in all ages, they've chosen what they thought was the easy way. They've chosen the promise of peace and safety. They've chosen to follow a big, powerful leader, or at least what appears to be so, because they will not look to themselves to be champion. And people who will not stand up for themselves individually are truly giving away the right to decide anything to that which appears to be strong. You are your own champion. And you can be the champion for those to come. That's a responsibility, a big one. And you won't be popular, but then truth never is. All the best for now, and may your God go with you.